Welcome to the 129th episode of the Sawdust Nation Podcast with your hosts, Nat from NAS Works LLC, Josh from North Country Woodworking, and Nick from MPG Creations. That was an early little Christmas tune for you all, but we did just give away something big, because we're feeling quite jolly over here. We had Huey, right? Huey win the old Husky toolbox. So congratulations to him. So if you didn't tune into this live, we do have the live in January. The giveaway won't be quite as large, but there is still stuff to give away, and who doesn't like free things? So make sure you turn in next time. But let's go ahead and jump on into what's going on in the shops, because 'tis the season. And I'm going to start with Josh. Josh, what you got going on in the shop, man?
Oh, he caught me off guard a little bit, and now I know how it feels.
Yes.
I'm still singing that little tune from the intro there. Well, hey, we're at the tail end of making 300 ornaments. We delivered half, 165, so just a little bit more than half a day or two ago. They had their Christmas party. The rest are for the people they work with. So we got to see some pictures from their party, and they seem to love them. Actually, for our Patreons that are here, this is what we did. Light. Can't really see it, but anyway.
Oh, no, I can see it. That's pretty freaking cool, dude.
So it is a 3-layer ornament, and I decided to, instead of doing just one bell shape, or not bell shape, ornament shape, I did 2 and then used the 3M material for that spacer, and it worked out really well. The only thing is peeling all those were not fun, and but my wife and I knocked it out. Without her help, I would have never got it done in time. She was a MVP of the ornament game here. So we're wrapping that up. Her idea, we wrapped each one individually, and we also, gave them in each bag has 55 in them, and gave them a whole bunch of bags. So that's almost complete and out the door. I just got done engraving a whole ton of Yeti mugs and the ones with the handles. And so we had this conversation last time we were on, and I said, hey, what should I watch out for? And Nap was like, hey, watch out for the handle. It'll get you. And I'm like, oh, that's stupid. Why would I? That's just common sense, right? Yeah, first one. Handle got me. So I was so paranoid about getting it right that I checked for the handle movement and it was good, but then I started adjusting it. And when I adjusted it, I didn't check for the handle placement again. And the first mug I messed up. So needless to say, my little wheel I made with a 3D printer worked like a champ. I didn't have to have any rice in there. In fact, I didn't even have a gasket or any kind of rubber on my little wheel that was turning inside. The downward pressure of it was enough to keep it from slipping, and they all turned out great, except for that first one. No big deal. Went to the BX, or the Basic Exchange here in Base. I bought the last one of the color I needed and got that done. Well, they didn't tell me that their party was yesterday at 5 o'clock, and here it was 3:30, and I delivered them, and then they handed me 3 more, and they're like, hey, can you get this done before the party? I'm like, possibly. I'm already set up for it. Let me see. Well, being in the Christmas spirit, I'm like, hey, I'll knock these out. I already have everything set up. So I knock them out, and I try to reach out. I call their phone. I call the shop. I call every number I have. I'm like, look, if you want these before the party, you need to answer me and pay the bill. So long story short, they didn't get them yesterday. I still have them. They're going to pay me cash when they pick up. But actually, I'm going to pull one out for the Patreons.
Pull it out, big boy.
Pull what out?
Pick up.
What? Uh-oh. I missed something.
I'm going to show you the engraving I did. It was kind of nerve-wracking in some ways because these were 2 small logos, and then the back was actually a name. So the logos I was a little bit paranoid about because I didn't really know how they were going to come out. And I don't know how you guys are going to see this, but
he's a baby.
They wanted about this size, and then on the other side is a name. So I'm here. Please don't show me. Yes, you're in for a treat, my friend. Anyway, long story short, since I had everything set up, I went ahead and engraved all my kids' Yetis. I did a reel about that. My first reel in forever. And that seems to be doing pretty well. So I'm happy about that. And then transitioned back into the old normal laser, took out the rotary and whatnot. Did another schematic of the C-17. I have a civilian leaving the shop tomorrow, so that's his going away gift. I did a couple port dog wings, and that's really not a thing, but I have an instructor teaching port dogs that's a loan master, and he's at the EC, so he wanted that. So I gave him a senior badge, and I gave him a basic, and he also had a kid not too long ago, so I gave him the little 1 month, 2 month, and then the statistics or the measurements and stuff like that of like the kid and the name and whatnot. He's a good friend, so it was a gift for me. Also completed I'll be posting about this later. It's a Mickey Mouse with a name in the center. It's a Minnie Mouse with a bow. It's acrylic bow, pink I did. It turned out pretty good. It was made of MDF. I cut it with the 2.5 focal lens. And I'm telling you what, single pass at 10 speed, and it was like, 45% power, worked like a charm. I lifted it up. Thing fell right out. I can't beat those new lenses I got. They're just doing wonders for stuff in the shop. I wouldn't even dream about that, my last lens that I had in there. So I'm really happy about the how those are performing. Go ahead.
Can you send me the link to those lenses?
Yeah. I'll send you the link to the kit I bought. You can get the lens only, but the way he sets the kits up, and this is American Photonics, is he gives you a choice between getting all 4 lenses, 2 or 3. And I got the 4-inch, the 4-inch, the 2.5, the 2, and the 1.5, and he glues the lens into the nozzle, so that in a traditional nozzle, they have it so that it's pressure fitted in there. And he's found that when it's pressure fitted in there, it actually bends the lens a little bit and creates where the dome needs to be and the laser needs to go through. It kind of distorts it. So you're not getting the true lens power that you would if it was just glued. So
how do you clean the lens then if it's glued into the nozzle?
You take off the nozzle, and it provides cloth for you. You can get up in there, and there's you can do it with like some long Q-tips. I'm gonna actually have to do it because I've been cutting so much material with this lens. I'm gonna take it off and clean it. And I will say I have not done any kind of testing far as like sighting it in. I've been using the AAA battery, but it feels like it's spot on. Like I'm cutting through stuff with less power and faster, and it's amazing. I'm only used the 2.5 lens. I haven't even gone down to the 2 or the 1.5 or the 4 to try it out. It's just doing everything I need to at the 2.5. So it's definitely faster. It's definitely cleaner. All my stuff doesn't have char on the sides anymore. It's just a very clean cut. I'm very happy with it. So it's a positive. I have lenses for everything else. I need to go in and do the mirrors because I upgraded those too. I have a bunch of upgrades for the laser that are small, but I'm hoping that help and just make it a better machine overall. So, but right now it's working better than it ever has just with that focal lens upgrade. Moving on to other jobs that we knocked out and got out. Let's see here. We talked about the Minnie Mouse. We talked about all the mugs for my kids. That was a fun one. We did some Pokemon and Frozen themed with their names and their Yeti cups. That way, when my son brings them to school and whatnot, he can showboat that a little bit. We talked about, what else did I do? I gave out a whole lot of projects all at once, it seems. So I was just trying to remember exactly what I need to do. But working on the trunk, getting that complete. I have a shadow box due in the beginning of the year. I have a couple other projects due in the beginning of the year as well, going into the end of January. I already have that kind of booked up going into February right now. I'm trying to not overbook myself and do it smart. That way I can make the orders on time. And it seems like people are reaching out with enough time frame, so it's not that bad right now. So I'll be doing a plaque for New Jersey State Police for the California police. I remember of an incident that happened down there. What else? Pricing a whole bunch of stuff out. It's that time of year where people reach out wanting a whole bunch of stuff, wanting it for Christmas, and then you have to shatter their hearts and say you can't do it. I had 2 people reach out wanting a 3-foot by 5-foot flag. And when I told them the price, they said that was way more than they expected. And it was supposed to be a flag with like a C-130 cutout and all this nonsense. And it was going to look cool. I was actually looking forward to doing it. But when I priced them, they immediately backed out. I don't know what they expected. So
did they want it like soon, or was it like something that they were?
They wanted it in January because I told them I can't do it until mid-Jan. So, and then they had another friend that was interested. But look, if you look at prices of people making flags right now, and for that size, that is a fair price. Because I reached out to people I know that make flags, and I asked them their opinion, and just because I wanted to make sure I'm not just overpricing this. So, long story short, they didn't want it, and that's fine. I have other people inquiring about other stuff, and that's cool too. I got to talk to my husband on one of the things I priced out, which my wife was like, "Yeah, she's not gonna get back to you."
That's a universal sign for it's outside my price range.
Well, I mean, like, there's people on like the base that are doing things for wicked cheap. They are. They're doing it for like less than half of what I charge. And they want the customer base, they want the jobs, but they're not making almost anything. If they're probably actually losing money. So in the end, that's not going to last long.
They're not making an hourly wage off of it either. They're just making it because they think they can get a quick few bucks off of it,
Yeah, but I'm talking about simple stuff like first and middle name circle thing that goes above your kid's crib or whatnot. I was going to charge $80 for I think it was a 20-inch or 18, and there's someone on base charging like $20. How am I going to compete with that? You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Getting through that, it's the end of the year. I'm trying to get things complete, basically, so I don't have to do anything on Christmas, and then get right back into it and knock some stuff out. But yeah, it's been exciting.
Okay.
I don't know if I mentioned this last podcast, but I actually brought all my 3D printing stuff, and now it's above me on a shelf. So I have my little desk, and all my 3D printing stuff's right above me right here. And it's nice. Cleared the counter off for my wife. She loved that. She took that back over, and now all my stuff is I got my recording studio, desk area, and then 3D printing. So got to use my thermal printer for labels as well, other than engraving a whole bunch of Yetis and whatnot left and right, and doing ornaments and jobs and pricing. That pretty much wraps up my shop. It's getting busier, and I'm okay with it. I got some stuff I can start posting finally, and that's worth interest because it's only so many times you could post about engraving a Yeti mug. So we'll go ahead and throw that out there and toss it over to Nick to see what's happening in his shop.
Well, I'm still jamming things out. My closing got pushed back, so I decided to take a couple more orders. So I am gainfully employed, I guess you could say. I don't know if you guys saw the acrylic sign I'm working on, but it's pretty decent size. It's 24 by 24. All the acrylic I got from makerstock.com, and I'm just jamming away on that and some other various plaques and stuff like that, just kind of small things until after the new year. And that's when my bigger orders start to pick up, because I have orders that are due in like February and March and stuff like that. So anyway, my garage is a mess. My shop is a mess. It is it's disheartening. I walk in there and I'm like, fudge. I don't want to do anything because the whole. I've been working so like just diving headfirst into projects and getting things knocked out that it became a mess over the course of a few weeks, and now I'm kind of just like the state of your shop definitely plays into your motivation level.
Absolutely.
If it's clean and tidy and looks great, and you're like, oh man, it's good to have land, right? And then and then you're like, it's filthy, and you're like, oh man, I don't feel like moving all this crap.
It's clean. Let's make another mess. Yeah. Yes.
It's inevitable. That's how it works. It's a cycle.
If your shop's not dirty, though, I mean, like, you're not really working in it. I mean, like, you can clean it, dirty it, clean it, but in the end, it's always going to end up dirty. It just, with sawdust, it goes everywhere. Even if you keep up on the scraps and stuff. Like, you guys, I know you're like me. You use a tool and you're like, I'm going to use this in 3 minutes. You put it down, and then 2 days go by and you're like, oh, yeah, I probably should put that away.
Yeah,
I put it down and poof, it's gone.
That's tape measures. In fact, this afternoon, my son and I were looking for a tape measure that I just used 2 minutes prior. Like, he was even having trouble finding it.
So you know what? You know what's actually eluded me in my shop, and I've yet to find it, and I'm sure it's somewhere stupid. You know how on the router table you got like the little, it's like a little handle that you shut, put in the hole in and turn it or whatever. I can't find that anywhere.
The handle?
The handle that like spins the table up and down. So
the crank?
Yeah, dude, I can't find it. It's gone. Like it's just
a hex, a hex wrench, right?
Yeah. So my current setup for that is I have the Harbor Freight hex with the plastic handle on it, with a pair of vice grips. I have vice grip on it. I just spin that around.
Get the bit for your drill and just it's powered lift.
That's what I used to do. And by the way, it worked great up until it screwed the freaking whatever mechanism is, like it screwed it completely out, and the lift just dropped into the bucket.
Yeah, but what lift did you have?
I had the Rockler one.
No.
So
I would hope to have some holds out better.
JP in the chat says he has to clean his shop because it's small. He said he wouldn't be able to move if he didn't. I was like, yeah, man, I've seen you do a bunch of work, and I can tell you what, you probably have mounds of shavings from using the lathe. So I can only imagine like having to clean that up every time.
Mounds of shavings, huh?
Yeah. He's kind of a masterful lathe turner.
Very talented.
That's
good with his hands.
Pretty much all I've got going on in my shop, folks. I'm just trying to
God, so boring today. God.
Keep some stuff going, you know what I mean? And weather the I'll probably work straight through Christmas. I don't know. It's extra money, you know? But I was pulling reports from quarters the last four. Well, I can pull my fourth quarter report, but I pulled my first through third quarter report, and I've seen steady growth in sales, and so things have been going well on that aspect. I'm just ready for a new shop, guys.
Yeah, you say that. I mean, okay, I say you say that, and then you get to like building your new shop, you're like happy. Like when I was putting my shop together, I was like, oh, this is so great. And then I'm like, oh, but there's so much stuff to do.
Yeah, but you know what though? Like if you shut down operations and you just spend your time on that, it's so much more fulfilling to do something for yourself and not be like, oh man, I gotta work on this project too and juggle that stuff. Like you shut down and you were actually having your stuff, build it. I kind of envied you there for a minute because you were like, I'm doing the electrical. And I was like, oh man, I wish I could do some electrical, but I'm dumb, so I can't.
And we're going to the shop and I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I got to say though, like even after then, like I had some stuff going on, but yeah, I was mostly dedicated to building the shop up, but I can't say I envied you guys more because I was like, man, I got to start all over again. Let's rebuild clientele and all those things. Like that's hard.
You can still rely on your past clients though.
How long did it take you to build clientele? You were getting jobs as soon as you got there almost.
Yeah, but like those aren't like, so a couple of them are local, yeah, but a lot of them
You're never going to have what you had in Texas unless you stay there.
No. Yeah, you definitely will. Not.
Yeah, you definitely will, dude. You need to have an online presence. And I was just telling him this, like Etsy, bro. If you do that, if you do that, you will be gainfully employed if you have a variety of things that you can make that you put on there.
Gainfully employed, you'll have jobs. Like I get steady, but I slow down, get steady. But what you guys have, or what Nick has in Texas, is on a different level. You guys have so much clientele down there; it's ridiculous. Nap has seen it. I mean, like he knows now the difference. I think Nick has forgotten.
No. Look at it this way. I have like people I was stationed with before, who have PCS to different units. You know, I still have contacts. We all have people we know that we've had in our past, right? And they've reached out to me, and I did a large GPC. Well, I'm still yet to make it, but I did a large GPC order for a unit in Florida, and I don't know anybody there except one person, you know? And so
that's where online presence helps. You're right. But like, even if you didn't have online presence, you would still have many jobs from the base you're located at.
Yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
I'd say that localized jobs are 50% of what I do. The other 50% is online stuff. And then sometimes it ebbs and flows with the local stuff, and sometimes it ebbs and flows with the online stuff. But regardless, you can only make yourself better by putting your stuff out there on a platform to where people can pick options and buy it. And then you, like, I realize it's kind of weird, like to do it, you know, to starting out, like, where am I going to get boxes? How am I going to package this stuff? And I've had issues with that in the past where I was shipping out plaques and the corners were getting dinged, but I was using bubble mailers. And so I had to grow. Obviously I learned that you bubble wrap, then you throw it in a box. Things are a little, you know, it saves you more in the long run to spend a little more on your packaging.
Yeah.
So I would highly suggest building your online, whether it be Shopify or Etsy, especially for Nap, because Nap, you make some wicked shit, and you could definitely make some. And it doesn't even have to be people who are currently in the job down here. You have such a repertoire of things that former instructors and former people down here would look online, like they're going on Etsy, they're looking for MTI stuff, they're going to find that heritage stuff that they were looking for, and they're going to buy it from you because guess what? They don't know anybody here anymore.
It's true.
So where can I get a hat board? Well, let me go ahead and Google it, hat board or whatever, and if you have your keywords and your tags set up, you should be able to pop up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I can say, I can roll kind of into my shop because part of it is about the Etsy thing. I'll start with the Etsy stuff since we're on the topic. I'm going to take another run at the Etsy thing because not only is it Nick telling me this, Josh telling me this, now I've got other people telling me this, and I've got a couple things. Yeah, I know it's. At this point, it's like, okay, I got to stop going against the grain here and stop fighting against the machine that is Etsy. It's just, man.
I mean, Shopify works too, but you're going to pay an upfront fee for Shopify as opposed to Etsy, where it's like 20 cents a listing and then they hit you on your sales.
Okay,
so
I got a website
I like to pay,
and I have Etsy.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, your website,
Etsy,
can they buy on your website?
Yeah, absolutely. I get orders on the website all the time.
Jason, just do it.
So how does it pay out? Like, is it just a collected? Does it PayPal?
It pays
or what
out.
Is it?
They could use any kind of service they want. They can do payments, whatever. It's all through Shopify. I get the payment right up
so it's Shopify
once they buy. Yeah.
All right.
It
so
works
that makes sense.
Yeah. It's almost
But
like Etsy, but you get to do more for it.
But you pay an upfront fee, though, right? So that's what I was getting at.
You pay either yearly or you pay monthly, and I also had to buy a domain. But I now have a place where I can post and do anything I want on, and showcase my work. Reach out. I even have a little spot for the podcast on my website, and then Etsy. And when people look at North Country Woodworking, they have Google that pops up. They have Etsy that pops up. They have Instagram. They have TikTok. They have Facebook. They have, I think I mentioned, they have like 7, 8 things that pop up. So I don't have people saying, hey, are you legit? I have all these platforms. They can see my stuff. And I've got orders from Georgia, Mass, Connecticut, Texas, Florida, California. And it's mostly because of the online presence. Local stuff, it's all word of mouth and all that kind of stuff. But anything I'm shipping out is because of my online platform. And there's a couple people out there that speak dividends to what I do. But not a lot of people that I've worked with here have PCS quite yet because we're stuck with the plane. So like once the plane goes away completely, it'll be different.
So I looked into Shopify, and at that point, when I started looking into it, I don't think I was quite there as to where I could support paying an online service for an unknown return. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So, and the only reason I went with Etsy fully was because I can list stuff and it's only going to cost me 20 cents a month, I think, per item. And I can definitely afford that. And it's not like I'm taking a huge loss if I don't sell anything, but I could also just like go on there, add stuff whenever I want to. I'm sure you can do that on Shopify too, but I know how to use the Etsy platform better. I think I'm going to I'm not switching. I think I'm going to do both eventually.
It's worth it.
Once I stop working my other job. You know what I mean?
I will say that Shopify, it's hard to get rolling and it's a little hard to navigate because it is different. But once you start getting into it and start getting into the weeds, it definitely starts making more and more sense. When I first started on it, it took me forever to go through and actually customize and do stuff. But now I have an understanding of it. It's like anything, I can walk in there and be like, hey, I want to do a promo code. I can throw that on there. I want to do an announcement. I'm not taking orders past December 22nd. Everything after that will be, in February, blah, blah, blah. And it's very easy to reach out to people versus, like Etsy. You could do some of that, but you can't on a large scale. And plus, like I said, I could put anything on I want on my website. So.
Yeah, that is true. And, I think that a lot of times if you put something on Shopify that could potentially be questionable regarding copyrights, yes, you're not going to get punished like you do on Etsy. That's I've seen it to where Etsy takes your ad down and then punishes you as far as payouts and stuff like that goes.
Mm.
Yeah, they seem to take a good chunk too.
They get their pound of flesh, but with anything, I'm gonna get mine. So my prices are higher on Etsy than if somebody called me or somebody direct messaged me on Instagram or whatever. I still get what I would normally get, but it just looks like I'm gouging. Well, I don't say gouging, but I'm asking for like 15% more of what the price of the item is.
Well, typically in most business and some folks, like the consumer will say, doesn't typically see all the intricacies of it, and they don't understand that, hey, in order for me to still make my margin, certain costs are passed to the customer, and that's just the nature of the beast. And most people don't see that or understand that, and that's why sometimes they get turned off by it. But then sometimes some people are open to hearing you out in a way. they'll be like, oh, okay, I can see why that is what it is. But sometimes if they're cool about it, be like, hey, message me offline and we'll talk. You know, if you don't want to go through that, we can just talk offline and we can handle it.
I'm always willing to, like, if I have customers who have questions and stuff like I got an order for some plaques through Etsy that weren't listed because the customer messaged me and asked me a question. I said, do you have time to talk on the phone? And then obviously I introduced myself and I gave them all my information regarding the rest of my platforms that I use so they could scroll through it. But it's been a good starting jump off point for items that aren't listed, as well as I forget what I was going to say, but as well as that.
But something I brought up in the chat here, Jason, he goes, would having a maker website that had a collection of makers on one site be useful? So to that, I would say that's kind of like a joint venture in a way. So like if I were to do that, let's say if I wanted to have a collection of makers on one site and they bought from that site, and obviously each maker would be their speciality would be on that site, I'd probably only do that with folks I know. So if, for example, me, Nick, and Josh had a site where we had specific things that we did, like we all do shadow boxes, right? But we all do different styles of shadow boxes. We would put up whatever our speciality in the shadow box world would be, and then they would order that, and then, hey man, we got to order for this type of shadow box that's on your list or whatever. But I probably wouldn't do that with folks I don't know very well, because one, your name is associated with that, we'll call it the maker site, and like if Josh sends something out and it happened to just be absolute, I'm not insulting you, Josh, but absolute trash cakes, right? Then now we're associated with that. Or same thing with Nick, or if I did that, it'd be the same. Or if something wasn't up to snuff for that customer, and it might not have been bad, it just, they were being super picky. Now we're all associated. So it would be a trust thing, I think, when it came to maybe a site such as that. But I could see it being useful if we all went into business together in one way or another, but still flew under our own banners. That could be something interesting to dive into, maybe way later down the road. But to wrap up that portion, Etsy will become a thing again. I'm going to dive a little heavier into that this time than I did last time. I barely dipped my toes into it and didn't like the result because all I did was dip my toes into it. I really didn't fully invest like I could have. Especially knowing now what I know between Nick's exploits and Josh's as well. I'll definitely take a better look at it than I did this last time. And also include candy in my packaging. We were talking about shipping, and JP goes, a sucker in the box doesn't hurt either. And actually, Daniel over at PW and CNC, he sends, depending on what you order, he'll send you either Starburst or a big bag of Skittles or small bag. It just all depends on what you get. And I'm not going to lie, I do look forward to the candy in the box. That's just one of those things.
Bruce does too.
Expensive candy. I ordered some Skittles from you 2 weeks ago.
Where are my Skittles?
And I got this dust boot. What the heck?
But jumping into what's going on in the shop. So I've been doing a little odds and ends things lately. Not a lot of high price things, and that's fine. I'm accomplishing one side of, let's see. So what about a website that directs different people to websites and web stores? That definitely is something you could definitely entertain for sure. Doing kind of like a link tree or something like that. That would work. Yeah, it's like a central hub. So that would be really cool, I think. Like each person, like for example, if they want metal work, for example, like Drew Clark over at Metal Tuition, we had him on last week. Like some of us are like metal workers by trade, but he is. If we had like, okay, if you want metal work, go to this guy. If you want this stuff, go to this guy. Or there's a group of guys you can go here, check out their galleries. That would be pretty cool. That would be, honestly, a venture that could be taken on. That would just be, I think, just getting their participation, if you will, and probably be good with like newer makers that are getting into the game and, helping them maybe even build clientele. That could be something cool to maybe explore in the future here. It's a pretty good idea there, JP. But then back to shop talk and the odds and ends. So belt buckles. Who would have known etching belt buckles would be a thing? So my boss, he I forget what the company is, but he buys these belt buckles, and it was they're called let's see, Grip 6, American made. They're belt buckles that you can thread you thread a belt, belt around it, and you attach it to the actual buckle itself. And he had me etch one for him, I'd say a couple months ago, and he said, hey, because this worked out, I'm going to come back to you, and I'm going to have you do 2 for my father-in-law. And, yeah, so we ended up doing that, or it was his dad. And I ended up etching 2 belt buckles with some stuff that he wanted. And I didn't realize, but it's so quick and easy, I might actually start etching belt buckles. Like, hey, you want this belt buckle? And then I etch it, and then I can send it to you. Pretty neat. So I did 2 of those. I got my tumblers in finally. I went a little different route than my typical supplier because I wanted to try a different brand. Polar Camel's cool, but this other one I got, I honestly don't even know the brand, but they're nice looking tumblers, and they were just as cheap as, and I say cheap relatively speaking, to Yeti or like Arctic. But I got these, and I'm gonna end up etching 2 tumblers probably tomorrow, and getting those to the person that ordered them. I'm going to start that trophy this week for the organization, the weapon standardization organization here on base. So that'll be cool with the walnut that I received. Free walnut, mind you. So I'm doing a job more for my time, not the material. So that's a little different. Typically I'm, supplying material and all that, but they supplied me with the material this time around. So that's cool. Before we jumped on the podcast tonight, I got another order, and I said I wasn't going to do any more of these, but I want the job. So I'm making 2 more of those baby shadow boxes, taking lessons learned from the last one, or last 4, I should say. I'm going to do things just a tad bit different. I have a little more time to work on these ones, so I'll be able to explore a couple of different ways of making on them, because I am using pine yet again, the cursed pine. But I also have a bunch of pine in my garage right now, so why not use it?
Exactly.
And it was free pine at that. So I'm not going to not use that. So I'm making 2 more of those. Those are due mid-January. And then, yeah, I really don't have a whole lot more going on in the shop. I mean, I've cleaned my shop a bunch of times. I probably should be working on some other things. And I think I'm actually going to go ahead and get some of that, that spray insulation, the white free floating stuff.
Yep.
Because the top of my garage is open. It's not like the rest of the house where there's a bunch of the spray insulation and, keeps the house fairly warm. The garage, it stays warm for the most part, but the heater does kick on more than I would like it to. And that's just because I have nothing. There's no barrier above the garage other than the drywall and studs. So I'm going to go spray some of that foam up there, or foam insulation stuff, free floating insulation stuff, and hopefully make it a little warmer up there. Let's see. Other than that, though, there's not a whole lot going on in the shop, guys. I'm trying to build the presence here. We'll just say that a lot of the stuff that I have made is catching some eyes. Those CE plaques that I sent out that they did their brand on, those caught a lot of traction. I actually ended up getting with our last guest host, Drew, over at Metal Tuition, and he fabricated 10 metal logos for me. So instead of acrylic, I was like, you know what? I'm going to see what this metal stuff would look like with this. And of course, he delivered. He sent me a picture of a finished one, which I'm sure he cut all 10 at once, but he showed me one of them. And he did a matte black powder coat finish on them. Mm-hmm. So instead of just being metal, they're the black color, which is pretty neat. But yeah, so that's all I got going on the shop. But we did have something coming in on the questions and stuff. But Josh, what questions did you have, dude?
So as I was doing all these tumblers, you know how we always kind of stretch out in the limits and try to make what we do better, right? First question I have is, do you know or do you use a masking material other than, let's say, masking tape when you laser that would work well for spray painting over? So say you want to etch something and then spray. Would you say masking tape would be your best option, or do you have another idea? I've heard of people using or a mask. So
just to because I didn't hear the first part. You're talking about masking it before you etch it. If you're saying to mask it so you don't have to do like the extreme wipe down, because you do get like the overburn when you're doing the etchings on the tumblers and things. Mm-hmm. So one, I don't use masking personally because I do use that CMT blade and bits cleaner to clean off my mugs, and it works very well. But it also just really comes down to your settings. So you don't have quite as much overburn if that's what you're trying to eliminate.
So the end result of what I would like to try to do is actually color the engravings. Spray paint or figure out a paint that would work well on a tumbler so that you could color the actual engraving once it was done.
So they make stuff for that.
They do, but you can also do... Well, no, never mind. What I had to say probably wasn't going to work.
I know they have lasers and stuff that could do that, but I'm saying for our
there's a spray you can spray on the tumbler, and when it burns whatever area it burns with the spray on it, it bakes that. It's like powder coating almost. It bakes that color onto the tumbler in that particular.
So how would that work on a normal tumbler that was blue? And I want the engraving to be red and not be over the rest of the blue. So I want to do a circle. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think you could actually do that with our stuff.
Tough. I think you can. You can go over top of color, but I don't think you can take color off and then go put color back on and be that. I mean, without getting spray everywhere inside your laser. You know what I mean?
So yeah. The reason I asked is I'm going to actually attempt to do a couple of different things. I have a whole bunch of mugs and stuff that people at work have given me to just laser engrave. Just they don't want no more. They don't have the lids for what have you, and I could practice on these and do what I want. So I'm going to try it. I mean, why not? If I could figure out a way to do it and offer, it'd probably in the beginning be one color engravings essentially. I'll see how that works out because I think that would be cool. The stainless steel look after you engrave them is as good as is, but if you can offer a color on top of that, you can charge more, and I don't think it would be as difficult as we're letting it be. Especially if I do some research and I figure it out. Just I didn't know if you guys already knew of anything that would work.
No, not to my knowledge.
I haven't really dove too far into anything like that, just because I've thought of how do they do the color stuff on, let's say, stainless steel, because that's where that would work probably the most. I haven't really dove too much into hey, if I laser etch this blue tumbler, how do I make the engraving a different color? I haven't really seen that. I think that would take a level of precision and accuracy of your rotary, because if you were to do that, you'd have to etch it and hope that it goes to perfect zero again, do your colors or whatever you want to do, and then re-etch it, because you would have to have the process of etching that stuff into it. That'd be the only way I would say you'd be able to do something like that. But I will tell you that type of precision, I think, takes more than what we have. Don't get me wrong. The rotaries that we have are awesome, but there's still that room for error. And that room for error will be thousandths of an inch or whatever. And it's just enough to
I agree 100%. But I honestly think there has to be a way. And if there is a way, I'm going to explore it a little bit. I mean, like I said, I have a whole bunch of extra cups I'm not doing anything with. A lot of them don't even have lids, or they're just there. So why not? And then, try to knock that out. Again, fiber laser would be great for that.
It would be, especially because that thing, it's crazy. I've seen the fiber lasers work, and their focal length and how they actually accomplish the task is so much different than a CO2. It's freaking awesome. But
they can even color as they engrave. They can color the material, which is amazing on its own, and that's just done with the amount of heat that from the laser essentially.
And that's what Jason was saying. He's like, stainless, you can change color by amount of heat used. And that's absolutely true. And then CO2, unfortunately, we can't. We're not cool like that.
But no, I was just curious if you guys knew. I don't want to take up too much space because we do have that question. I think it would just be a cool capability to have. So
to the question, it's more laser stuff. But hey, check it out. We get all levels of folks that use lasers, and particular individual, Ethan Thompson, He had a question on one of his jobs. So he was doing some cutting board stuff, and he was lasering the cutting board. And he noticed that when he laser engraved one of his cutting boards with certain settings, he noticed it wasn't as dark as he would want it to be. And he did it on another one. And so I actually was talking to him during parts of our live, and he said he used a smaller image, smaller PNG, and it ended up being darker. Well, let's explain or explore why that was the case. So when you look at an image and you blow it up, you are essentially increasing the interval of your lines, or we'll say the resolution of your image, which then makes the laser act differently. So there's 3 different things that he could look at, and which he kind of figured some of it out, and then also got a little more insight as I was talking to him, is for light burn, if you are using light burn, which I would say 95% of laser users use. Some use the Ruida stuff. I think it's RD Works is the other one that people do use. But in light burn, if you set your min and max settings, okay, to the same, you will get that percentage. What I have found in my time using the laser is if you do have a minimum that's different from your maximum and you're doing a fill operation, your laser is going to take on the minimum power that you put in there, which is why it's important that if you want to have a consistent dark engraving, you have your min and max set to the same. The only time that your min and max percentage should defer is if you're doing things like a Jarvis dither, a grayscale, or any of those things, because that's when you start looking into your whites, your grays, and your blacks when you're actually doing the engraving, because that's how you get a nice image, is when your laser can register, hey, the white is going to be 0, so there's no engraving there, but then like your max is 25%. So anywhere in that range, that's the scales you're going to get when you're doing that. But then also, I talked about interval. So interval is extremely important. If you look at your rendering in Lightburn, when you pull up your laser preview, you'll notice how you'll see like it's black, and when you zoom in, you'll see that the lines, there's a separation. So that's the interval that we're talking about. So when you're doing certain things, let's say it was wood, interval is extremely important, because if you want a dark burn, you want a closer interval. But then you get to things like glass or tumblers. Okay, so tumblers, like I go in millimeters, not inches. So it's 0.05 is my interval for tumblers, because it's just enough to where the beam is going to burn the powder coating off, but it's not going to burn the metal under the powder coating, because if you have too close of an interval, you'll actually burn the metal under the powder coat, and that is a pain in the ass, pain in the rear to get rid of when you're trying to clean it up. And then on glass, you don't need very close interval, because if you have too close interval, you'll end up getting like a really sharp fractured feel. So like a 0.078, and this is for the listeners out there, if you're doing glass, 0.078, I would say, is the sweet spot for all glass. And I say that because I've done etchings on all different types of glass, from thick to thin, panel to mugs and those things. 0.078 is like the sweet spot. But then you start getting into, again, speed and power. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, Ethan, based on what you sent in, is check your minimum, maximum, and also check your intervals, because that will definitely drastically change the etching that you're going to get. And that is diodes and CO2s alike. But I know I kind of probably took everything on that one. That's just because I like lasers, pew pew, and I like, dealing with those sorts of things. This is yes, JP. So the laser talk, I'll tell you what, if you have any questions on lasers, I got you there. Nick's pretty well versed now as well, and so is Josh. We're all becoming laser gurus, if you will. We don't know everything, but we can definitely get you from the ground to starting your first laser cut, and then refining certain things for sure. But yeah, so that was a question from Ethan. Did you guys have anything to add on that? I know, like I said, I kind of took the whole question, but
no, I mean, you pretty much nailed it.
I'm sorry. Got me spinning there. Like I said, I like laser talk, and I like helping out with that particular thing, because that's what I'm useful for, lasers. But yeah.
Now we just made it awkward, man.
Yeah, hang on. The turtle, it swims, right? It's swimming super fast now, Let's see here. Hey, Heather says you're not getting a fiber, by the way. Sorry.
Yeah, I gotta work on her for that. They're expensive. I might have took a look at them not too long ago just to see like the price range and what would be feasible in the future. What I can get approval from the wife maybe 10 years down the line or whatever. And for the one I want, it's pricey.
Which one do you want?
What fiber do
They're
you
100 watt, at 7-inch by 7-inch work area.
So you're looking. So you're looking like just specifically small stuff, like small area.
That's a big working area for fiber laser.
7x7.
Yeah,
they have full on. So I was on Ohmtech's website today. They have full on like box machines, like our CO2 lasers, but they're all fiber. How sick is that?
I did not see those. Those must be like you're talking about 20,000.
They're in the new realm.
I was looking, so I was looking, and it said underneath it said only $924 a month. And I was like, what?
I'm gonna tell you what though, like, so you all talking about fiber lasers. I almost pulled the trigger on one of the smaller ones, but then I was like, but if I want to cut metal and stuff with a fiber laser, I'm gonna want something that's got some power, but also can do the etchings and things like that. Yeah, definitely looking at something like that, the Ohmtech like big box machine. It just depends on space again, and
price.
Honestly, I don't need it right now. I don't. I want it.
That's the thing.
But yeah, I want it. But don't need it.
Yeah. We can operate our businesses really well with what we have currently. That kind of stuff is when I think I go full time and I'm making the money for it. You know what I'm saying? And have the space for it. Because I don't know where I would even put it. So
JP's got a solution to coaxing the wife into letting you get the fiber lasers. He'll send you some real Cadbury's chocolate. All right, and help convince her a little bit. That's perfect.
She's probably listening, shaking her head. Nothing's going to convince
me. Nothing's going to change her mind, no.
I can only borrow so much more power from my neighbors. I mean, like...
Yeah, they're probably like... The base is probably like, why in the hell is this particular section using so much juice? Like, what's going on here? We have to do an audit on the power.
To my neighbor across the street. It goes across the road.
Now you start getting like taps into like power lines and stuff. Like, what is that? And it says, "Do not touch. Official business only."
I've been there. I used to have to. When I was, Josh already soaked power up from his neighbors.
Only one. I have others I could try.
Well, all right, folks. We're looking at time. So, do we answer the question here?
I definitely smoked it and totally. Bobby.
Hey, so before we go ahead and wrap things up for this evening, I want to say congratulations to our giveaway winner again. We just gave... What's up?
I said, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We just gave away a big old toolbox from the Home Depot. It's a Husky toolbox, and it's set to be delivered in about a week for... Huey from Truculent B or Truculent B on Instagram. So check out his Instagram. He's got some pretty cool stuff on there. He's down in the Florida area. But congratulations one more time to Huey. And thanks to all of our patrons for supporting the podcast for obviously this year and the years past. But if you're not a patron and you want to become a patron, here's the benefits from it, right? You get access to all the content from our podcast live, and you can interact with us while we're actually having the podcast. On top of that, we have cool giveaways once a month, and you get an extra entry into the giveaway. So we have had quite a bit of patrons walk away with hardware and cool prizes because they had that extra entry. And anything we do, any of the giveaways we do are 100% free to you. So show up to the next Sawdust Nation Podcast Live. It's going to be on let's see what the next one is, because I don't want to say it's next, first two. It's going to be the 2nd of January, won't it?
3rd.
3rd of January. 3rd. It's going to be the 3rd of January, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on our YouTube channel. And all you have to do is subscribe, and just be in the comments, be in the chat, and you have automatically been entered to win. So it's well worth your time. Other than that, I want to say thanks to OhmTech for being an affiliate of ours. I want to say thanks to MakerStock for being one of our great affiliates as well. And huge thank you to Daniel at PWN CNC for making these episodes possible. If you're in the market for some aftermarket CNC stuff like dust boots or spindle kits, check them out, pwncnc.com. Use promo code Sawdust Nation 981 to get 10% off your entire order. And last but not least, I would love to thank Total Boat for their continued support. Now,
that was a really odd, like, hey, yeah, continue.
Yeah,
support,
I didn't know where it was going with that.
Random pointing. I'm like, oh, okay, it's my turn. Yeah. Hey, JP, thanks for joining us, brother. Appreciate you coming through. And yes, we'll definitely be helping you with the laser stuffs. But if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, give us 5 stars and let us know how we're doing. But if you don't give us 5 stars, go ahead and let us know why, so we give you the content that you deserve. Because if you don't tell us what you want, what you really, really want, we can't give you that stuff. We're not mind readers. But if you do give us 5 stars, still give us some feedback, give us some topic ideas, become a patron, like Nick was saying. Join us during the podcast. I'm not going to lie. Patrons that are in the chat right now, we do really appreciate you guys. Definitely brought some good stuff to the podcast today, especially giving us some good stuff to think on. And so keep doing that. And then we're going to start getting more questions. We've been dropping the ball. We're going to start putting out stuff for more questions. It's been a while. I'm sure there's been some people chomping at the bit to get some stuff answered. And we've also been diving into the different, substrates like metal and those things. And we have people that have answers now for probably just about everything. So definitely reach out to us. But if you want to reach out to us in other places like Instagram and the old, feedback section, Josh, how do they do that?
It's easy, folks. If you have Instagram, reach out, slide in our DMs on the Sawdust Nation podcast page. You can reach all 3 of us there, and we'll answer all the questions you may have. And if you want to reach out to us individually, go ahead and do that with Nick from MPG Creations, Nap from Nap Sunny Works LLC, and myself, Josh from North Country Woodworking. We'd be happy to answer your questions on our individual page as well. If TikTok or Instagram or Facebook is not your thing, it's easy. Go ahead, shoot us an email. It's at sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com. You can do the same thing. Slide in there with a question, a topic idea, or a voicemail, and you can ask us questions, and we'll answer you back. And then we've already went over the Patreon is the best way to actually be part of the podcast, because you can join us live every recording and have extra entries and so on and so forth. So talking about Patrons, I did want to make sure we thank Jamie from JP Woodworks. He joined us as a Patreon this afternoon, and we were happy to have him on as in the chat with us this recording. And with that, let's go with our final words and send it off to Nap.
Yeah, folks. Hey, so I'm not going to have any crazy quips or anything like today, but thank you all. And thanks for making the community stronger and also reaching out, because it keeps us sharp, keeps us on our toes, and makes sure that we are able to provide you all with all the support that we can. And my son is here. Say hi, Zane.
Hi.
Say, listen to the Sawdust Nation podcast. Say, listen. Nope, he's shy. He won't do it. He's being Zane. But yeah, folks, keep taking care of each other. Keep making the community stronger. And I'm going to throw it on over to Nick.
All right, folks. So like always, take care of yourselves and each other. And I know it's not Christmas yet. However, I just want to let all the guys listening know that if you're going to try mistletoe belt buckle, it doesn't work. So, Josh.
Thank you for listening to the 129th episode of Sawdust Nation Podcast. If you missed our live on YouTube, well, that's unfortunate, because someone out there is having a new toolbox delivered as a Christmas present on us. And until next time, make sure you're listening in your car, making coffee, at breakfast, at the office, in the shop, working out. We don't care how you listen. We just whisper in your ear. With that, go in the shop, make some sawdust, and Sawdust Nation out. Ho, ho, ho.
Sawdust Nation out. That's
Got
right.
any fun jokes there, Nick?
Nope, no more fun jokes. I'll have some good ones for next week. However, did you know why elves giggle when they run? No, because the snow tickles their balls.
Wow.